Officer, Bureau of Indian Affairs, Central California Agency, located in
Volume.
I am accompanied by Mr. Harley Long. Tribal government meeting is being recorded. First, I want to acknowledge the unusual nature of this meeting, since we would typically conduct such a meeting in person. But due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, we have chosen this type of venue to ensure everyone's health and safety. The purpose of this public meeting is to provide you information on the organizational process for the California Valley Miwok Tribe, formerly known as the Sheep Ranch Rancheria. I'm going to provide you a brief statement on how we got to where we are today, go over some requirements, and the process that will lead up to the conduct of the secretarial election to adopt a governing document. At the end of this presentation, participants will be provided an opportunity to ask questions or make a brief statement. If you choose to make a brief statement, you will be given 3 minutes to do so. If you wish to make a long statement, you may email it to myself, or you can submit it to the agency by mail. If you wish to submit a question after this meeting, you can email your question to me. My email address will be provided at the end of this presentation. At this time, all microphones are being muted. During the question and answer period, you will have a moderator that will coordinate the question from the audience. In order to ask a question, you need to raise your hand, and the questions will be taken in the order they are received. If you are going to make a statement, the moderator will keep track of the time so others will have an opportunity during the allotted time of the meeting. Before I go over this part of the organizational process, I want to provide a brief history that led us to where we are today. I will not go into a lot of detail because that would take more time than we have today. As you know, there has been nearly 15 years of litigation dealing with the matter of tribal leadership. For the time being, that litigation has been resolved. In December of 2015, the Assistant Secretary for Indian Affairs made a decision that set forth the criteria on who should decide on the organization of the tribe. As a result, the Assistant Secretary delegated the authority to the Regional Director to decide on whether a 2013 Constitution was properly ratified at an election held on July 6, 2013 by the tribe. The Regional Director decided that the 2013 Constitution was not validly ratified and recommended the tribe to petition for a secretary election under 25 CFR Part 81 based on eligibility criteria set forth in the December 2015 Assistant Secretary's decision. However, before that process was completed, a protest was filed regarding eligibility of individuals who participated in this new election, and a determination was made by the Office of Federal Acknowledgement that further defined eligible participants. Since the decisions and determinations were made, the Bureau had to develop a plan to organize a tribe while adhering to the eligibility requirements described in the Assistant Secretary's decision of 2015. In September of 2020, the superintendent published a notice that BIA planned to take action to assist the tribe in organizing, and subsequently, the superintendent confirmed that the Bureau would cease such action while an appeal remained pending before the Interior Board of Indian Appeals. As of July 13, 2021, the Interior Board of Indian Appeals dismissed appeal, thus returning jurisdiction to BIA. first step in the organizational plan is to determine who is eligible to participate in the election itself. To do this, a Certificate of Degree of Indian Blood, or CDIB form, will need to be completed, signed, and dated, and submitted along with the required supporting documentation like birth certificates. The instructions to the form describe the necessary documentation needed. It is critical that the form be signed and dated and include the supporting documentation. If the form is not signed and dated or has supporting documentation, it will not be considered. You can obtain this form using a link on the Bureau's California Valley Miwok Tribe webpage. The form will be used to determine lineal descendancy from the eligible groups. It will not be used to determine blood degree. In order to be eligible for participation, a person must show a direct lineal descendancy from one of the following groups or individuals. The August 13, 1915 census of Indians at or near Sheep Ranch, Calaveras County, California, which lists the following individuals: Peter Hodge, Annie Hodge, Melita Hodge, daughter of Peter and Annie Hodge, Lena Hodge, daughter of Peter and Annie Hodge, Tom Hodge, son of Peter and Annie Hodge, Andy Hodge, son of Peter and Annie Hodge, Jeff Davis, Betsy Davis, Mrs. Limpy, John Tecumseh, Pinky Tecumseh, and Mimi Duncan, granddaughter of Jeff Davis. The June 6, 1935 approved list of voters for the Indian Reorganization Act of Sheep Ranch, Rancheria, Calaveras County, California, which lists Jeff Davis only. It was determined by the Office of Federal Acknowledgement in May 2019 that John or Johnny Jeff is not the son of Jeff Davis. The descendants of Mabel Hodge Dixie. This information will also be on our webpage for your reference. Notices have appeared in regional newspapers, the Sacramento Bee, the Amador Ledger, the Calaveras Enterprise, and the Lodi News Sentinel, providing information on how to participate in the organizational process. The notice describes what is needed in order to participate in that process. So participants will have to submit the CDIB form within 45 days along with supporting documentation. The deadline to submit the information is January 14, 2022. Forms can be emailed or mailed to our office. At the end of this presentation, we will provide the email and mailing address to submit the forms. Within 60 days after the deadline, the superintendent will make the determination on whether an applicant meets the eligibility criteria or not. These determinations will be mailed back to the applicant. If the determination is not favorable, the applicant will have 30 days from the date of the determination to appeal that decision to the regional director. The regional director will decide on all appeals within 60 days, and those decisions will be final for the Department of the Interior. The process for making appeals will be guided by the relevant provision of 25 CFR Part 62 concerning adverse enrollment actions. Assuming there are no legal impediments to the process, the next step will be to notify those eligible participants for another meeting to discuss the next steps to conduct the secretarial election in accordance with 25 CFR Part 81. Earlier, I had mentioned that one could email questions or statements to our office. You can email your questions or statements to me at carol.rogers-davis@bia.gov. If you prefer to mail your questions or statements, our address is 650 Capitol Mall, Suite 8-500, Sacramento, California, 95814. To send in your CDIB forms and supporting documentation, the email address is on the screen. That is cvmt-cdib@bia.gov, or you can mail them to our office at the address shown. Again, 650 Capitol Mall, Suite 8-500, Sacramento, California, 95814. We will answer questions as soon as possible and make note of any statement. This concludes the presentation, and we will now take questions from the audience. Thank you for your attention.
Before we begin the question and answer session, a brief reminder of the steps in order to participate. If you wish to ask a question or make a comment, you will need to activate the raise hand feature in the webinar. To raise your hand, click the icon with the hand symbol at the bottom of your webinar screen. If you are calling via phone, dial *9 on your phone in order to raise your hand. Once your hand is raised, the panelists will be alerted that you wish to speak. When it is your turn to speak, the panelists will verbally address you by either your screen name or, if calling by phone, by the last 4 digits of your phone number. After addressing you, you will be unmuted and will be able to ask your question or make verbal comment for up to 3 minutes. Note, if you are using your computer and phone at the same time and you are using your phone to speak, please remember to mute your computer speakers and microphone. This will prevent an audio feedback loop from occurring. With that said, I will now call the first name. Arnold Samuel, please unmute your phone.
Yes, thank you. My name is Arnold Samuel. I'm a tribal attorney here speaking on behalf of the Tribal Council of the California Valley Miwok Tribe, as led by spokesperson Brianna Sanchez. As you know, the California Valley Miwok Tribe is the only federally recognized tribe in Calaveras County. Hundreds of Native people have lived their lives and been recognized as members of this tribe for decades. When certain smaller groups tried to claim exclusive rights to the tribe, the department rebuffed them, and in 2015 issued a decision which was intended and believed to be inclusive and broad enough to allow those who have been historically considered members to participate in the organization of the tribe. The department did this because it had, and it still has, an obligation under the law to ensure that the greater tribal community is allowed to participate in the organization of the tribe. In other words, the department is legally bound to make sure organized tribes are representative of the potential membership. This was the intent and the purpose of Washburn's 2015 decision. Unfortunately, we've come to recently learn that this decision was based on inaccurate genealogical information. One of the groups identified as eligible, which was listed in this presentation, descendants of Jeff Davis, was believed at the time to encompass hundreds of members, but that has purportedly turned out to include no one, not one member. Had the department and Assistant Secretary Washburn known this, he surely would not have identified them as an eligible group. Because of this inaccuracy, the department's 2015 decision is fundamentally flawed. This cannot be ignored. It now needs to be revised to allow those who were intended to be included to actually be included. To proceed with the organization of the tribe without first fixing this flaw would not only be arbitrary and capricious, but would be a blatant and unconscionable breach of the department's duty to the tribe. and it would effectively disenfranchise hundreds of tribal members, causing the tribe permanent and irreparable harm. So before the BIA does anything, the department needs to fix this first. It needs to issue a new decision, one that includes the original and intended members of the tribe, the descendants of the 1929 census, as eligible to participate. Proceeding under the currently proposed course of action will undoubtedly lead to more litigation, which the people of this tribe do not need. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Samuels, for your statement. It is being recorded.
The next individual is Catherine Yates. Please unmute yourself.
Yes, I'm wondering how we can get a copy of the slides that you presented in this presentation today.
We'll be publishing them on the webpage that was presented earlier in the slideshow. If you need it, you can email Carol and we'll get you the link, okay?
Thank you.
The next individual is Sylvia Burley.
Thank you, Sylvia
Please
Burley.
unmute yourself.
This is Sylvia Burley. I'd like to thank everyone on the call that are here standing with the tribe. I would like to tell the organizers of this call that the tribe objects to this meeting. We object to the interpretation of the law that the BIA thinks allows them to carry forth this process.
Sylvia Burley, if you could unmute yourself, it is your turn to speak.
Oh, unmute yourself. This is Sylvia Burley. I'd like to thank everyone on the call that are here standing with the tribe. I would like to tell the organizers of this call that the tribe objects to this meeting. We object to the interpretation of the law that the BIA thinks allows them to carry forth this process. Those that stand with us today did not authorize this meeting. Our combined voices will be heard. We would like the tribe's objection to be reflected in the record of this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Burley.
If anybody else would like to speak, please raise your hand using the button at the bottom of your screen or by pressing *9 on your phone.
Hello?
Sylvia, would
Yes.
you like to speak?
I have two questions to ask. Who wrote the Constitution that will be voted on?
The Constitution hasn't been developed yet.
Who called the election under Section 16 of the IRA to invoke Part 81?
In the December 2015 decision, the Assistant Secretary set forth those regulations.
Thank you.
You're welcome. At this time, we are closing the meeting. Thank you for your participation.